If this is your first time photographing a wedding and you're wondering what lenses and gears to take, then check this out. What's up guys, Meng here from Prodigy Studios. Now, if you're wondering why I'm recording in my car, I've been working so much every single day, and by the time I get home so late, all I want to do is just play with my baby. So I don't have any time nowadays to record my videos at home, so I'm thinking, why not just do it between my gigs during the day? So here I am in my car in the shade and making a video that I've been wanting to make for the past few months now about wedding photography. So this video is going to be about what lenses and gears to take for your wedding, and then the next video is going to be a small tutorial on how to shoot the wedding with those lenses, what those lenses are going to be used for per each of the section of the wedding, right? Getting ready, ceremony, and so on. So now, first off, before I even start, I want you to know, of course, that it's not the lens and the gears that makes beautiful photos. Honestly, if my clients let me photograph a whole wedding with my iPhone, then guaranteed I could get amazing photos with the iPhone, because it's really all about the composition, the lighting, the subject, how you pose them, and so on. And also, iPhones have an amazing HDR effect that cameras don't have, that you would have to do in post. So you can get amazing photos using anything, right? Any kind of camera, right? But having nice lenses and nice cameras definitely gives you an extra bonus in it for your photos to come out great. So with that said and out of the way, the very first lens that you need to have in shooting weddings or anything ever, period, photos or video, is 24 to 70 f2.8 lens. I've always talked about this lens, even with my previous videos. It's the number one professional lens to get first. Now, if you're using a crop sensor, it's 18 to 50 millimeter f2.8, and crop sensor lenses are dope. I've been using it for my first 5 years and then moved up to full frame once I could afford it. And of course, like I just said, it is cheaper, almost a third price of a full frame lens or a camera. But the very first lens to take is 24 to 70 f2.8, because it shoots wide angle enough to get everybody in the subject, to get wide angle shots of the ceremony, wide angle shots of the whole bridal parties, and wide angle that when you are inside a hotel room for the getting ready part, you are wide enough to, even though you're in a small little confined area, you could still get a lot of picture area with that wide angle lens. You don't really need anything wider than that 24 millimeter. And if you do get anything wider, it's more of a stylistic photo. But one thing I do have to mention is that every single lens that you have has to be at least f2.8 aperture. The prime lens is 1.8, even better. But the reason f2.8 is important is because it brings in a lot more natural light. So during weddings, you're shooting inside hotel rooms for getting ready, inside churches for the ceremony, inside a ballroom for the reception, and you want that extra aperture 2.8 to bring in that light. Otherwise, if you, yes, you can shoot with an f4 lens and, you know, bring a speed light and bump up your ISO, but you want to use the ISO at the very last. That's the everything after everything's been used. The ISO is the very last thing that you bump up to get that extra light into your camera. That's an artificial light that goes into your camera. So the very first lens, 24 to 70 f2.8. Now the very second lens that you have to buy, now I say have, but you don't have to do anything. I've just to mention, I've met an amazing photographer who shot the whole wedding with an 85 millimeter f1.8, and I was kind of blown away. I was like, are you kidding me? This is the first I've ever seen. But I got to see her photos afterwards, and they look great. And of course they look great. 85 millimeter 1.8 photos look amazing no matter what you shoot with that lens. Well, right? I mean, it's a good lens. So with that out the way again, The next lens to get is 70 to 200 f2.8 or an f4. I love the f2.8 because it not only can you zoom in, the f2.8 allows you to get a lot more blurry background, more bokeh, depth of field compared to an f4. F4 still does a decent job getting a blurry background, but f2.8, it's just butter. You could shoot in front of a trash can and that trash can would just become a creamy, blurry green thing that's behind them. And that's what's so cool about that lens. You get to shoot almost anywhere, and you might think, or the couple might think, oh my God, this place doesn't even look nice. But with the right lens and the right angle and the right background being blurred out, your photo could look amazing. So the importance of having that 70 to 200 millimeter is that during the ceremony, you get to kind of stand back and zoom in and get photos of the groom, of the bride, and then you get to kind of scoot back and get the center, and you get to turn around and get all the guests that's over there, close-ups of them laughing, smiling, and all that good stuff. And during the reception, you can do the same thing. Have a little bit of distance so you're not in people's face, and you're also not blocking the other shooters or other people that want to enjoy the ceremony and the event. So 70 to 200 is an important lens. And personally, I've been talking about and sharing about how most of my lenses are Tamron because they are, 35% of the price of a Nikon lens, but just as good. So if you want to save your money and get yourself, more lens or more cool things, gears with that extra money, then get yourself a Tamron. But if you have money, get the Nikon, because obviously they are the best. They feel good. They are slightly better in, terms of quality, sharpness of the photos. And, of course, the branded lenses are always going to be the very best lens to get. So the must-have two lenses. The third lens that you can take is a prime lens. I personally have a 35 millimeter, a 50, and an 85 millimeter. And I kind of like to pick and choose whatever I feel like for the day. And there's no real wrong answer for which prime to use. The safe one is a 50 millimeter. I most of the time like to have my 50 millimeter lens on a second camera body on my hips. So after I'm getting my wide angle shots or a 70 to 200 millimeter shots, I switch to my second camera and I get a 50 millimeter shot, which is very stylistic. It's just beautiful. And just like that other photographer, you could shoot the whole wedding with just prime lens. A lot of the photographer friends I have, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys just have prime lenses because all of them are f1.8, 1.4, some are 1.2. And that definitely brings in a lot more light. So like if you are shooting inside a hotel room, if I was to use my 24 to 70 f2.8 wide angle, I would normally have a flash on top bouncing it from the ceiling to bring in just a slightly extra light into that room. But with a prime lens, if you have a small light coming in through the window or anything like that, it is strong enough to just take the photo naturally and you get amazing, beautiful photos. So I kind of switch back and forth from my wide angle shots, if it was the getting ready part, to a prime lens of getting close-ups of the makeups and the details, the rings, the shoes and things like that. So those are really the main three lenses to take. I own a 24 to like 120 millimeter lens, f4, and I first bought that thinking to myself, oh my God, it covers the whole wide angle and it zooms in, so I don't need to take all these different lenses. I could just take this one lens. It's half true and half false, because yes, you can shoot everything without one lens, but that f4, like I mentioned earlier, just doesn't bring in enough light, and I end up bringing up my ISO, and it's just a lot more nicer to just have a natural light photography instead of your artificial ISO photo. If you have to, of course, it's good. No real right or wrong, but it's always best to get the natural light photos before you start touching that ISO. So that lens is kind of kept in the shelf unless I'm shooting an event that is, just personal event, family event, or maybe it's a small budget and you don't really have to bring in all your expensive gears for it. So you just bring that lens. You don't have to bother with like switching different lenses, right? But a wedding, they're paying top dollars. If you're doing it for free, still, you want your best foot in the door. It is the most important day. You still should bring the best lens and gears, and most of the time they pay from $2,000s to even up to $10,000 for a wedding photo. So you want to give them the very best you can, not with your only with your skills, but with your lens and gears as well. So that lens out of the way. Try to bring in 2 camera bodies if you can. Otherwise, it is somewhat time consuming to be switching lenses. And by switching lens all the time outdoors, you have a chance of having dirt, dust going inside your camera, and that kind of sucks. So it's always nice to have a second body that if you need to switch a lens, you have a second body that could just bust out right away, right? Like a ceremony time, I have the 24-70 in one body, and the second camera has the 70-200. So I could easily just drop my one camera, pick up my second camera, and then get close-ups, and then drop that camera, and then get my wide angle to get the wide angle. Because a lot of times in weddings, you have to be kind of quick because everything goes so fast, and you can't afford to miss a moment. Imagine that you're changing a lens, and all of a sudden they're doing something very important. You're just fumbling through, and I've had some bad experiences with hundreds and if not thousands of weddings that I've shot. I've shot weddings for 18 years. It's so much, but I've had some, nightmares of dropping gears and, things like that. So it's nice to have 2 camera bodies. It's nice to bring, of course, have to have a speed light. Speed light is useful for the getting ready part and also the reception, and also during family portrait times after the ceremony. You can use that speed light like an off camera strobe light with a little remote in on your camera to get some extra light in there if you are at a location that needs that extra light. So that's nice to have. And I shoot with a Nikon, but it doesn't matter what camera you shoot with. But instead of using Nikon Speedlights, I do have a handful of Nikon Speedlights. I actually use Flashpoint or Godox Speedlight. And to me, they are the best. They're the best because they are only $175. It is strong as the strongest speedlight of Nikon. It comes with a lithium rechargeable battery that is way better than using 4 rechargeable AA batteries that always seems to kind of break on me or just run out quick or doesn't charge properly and so on. But on top of that, it also has a built-in remote. So if you have 2 flashes, then that one flash will trigger the second flash in case you want to get some creative photos. And I highly recommend learning that. And if you're interested in learning strobe photography, very simple but very creative strobe photography, let me know in the comments. And I'll also put a link below with the flash and the lenses and things like that if you want to get it, an Amazon link. So, and on top of that, on top of the wireless remote built in, it has this thing called high speed sync. Now, high speed is cool if you don't know what that is. If you know what that is, then very cool that you know it. But I actually, for the first 5 years of photography that I've been learning, I didn't even know what high speed sync was because I'm so used to just I had the Nikon flashes and it didn't have that. So what high speed sync is, let's say you're outdoors and you're using a prime lens and your aperture is at 1.8 and your shutter is all the way at like 3000. Most speed lights and flashes, the regular ones could only trigger when your shutter is at 200. So that means you need to have an ND filter so you can make it darker, bring the shutter to 200 and flash. But a high speed sync flash could flash even though your shutter is at 3000, 4000. It's crazy. It makes your photos look cool. So I'm going to put up some of the photos on how a natural photo looks and how a high speed sync photo looks and see if you can tell the difference. High speed sync photos, you get nice, beautiful studio light during a bright day. And it's also a great way to cancel out the sunlight if it's glaring on their face and things like that. But that's a whole different subject. So I could go into that if you guys are interested in learning a little bit more in case you don't know it. So Make sure you have a speed light, one or two as a backup, and be sure to have a handful of extra batteries. It takes me at least 3 batteries for one camera to shoot a full day wedding. So it's nice to have a little extra, or bring a charger if that's all you have. And of course, bring extra memory cards in case, even though most of the time I never fill up my memory card, but one could die out on you. You never know if your camera could only handle one memory card. So bring extra of that. And besides that, honestly, that's really all you need. Just get out there. If this is the first time you're shooting a wedding, congratulations. I'm super excited for you because it's the best thing that I've ever done, right? It's the best job that I ever had because I get to travel around the world, meet a bunch of cool people, make a lot of money, and I feel like I've never really worked for a long time. It doesn't feel like a job. It feels like a hobby that pays you well. So if you're adventuring into wedding photography, yes, it is very competitive, but don't let that stop you because everything in the world is competitive. So just go out there and just do it. Ignore don't be overwhelmed with a bunch of other photographers that's got beautiful photos and charges a lot. Just focus on you, and I promise you'll be fine. You will do it. You'll make it. So just keep at it and keep going. And I'll make another video if you're interested on how to shoot weddings properly. There's etiquettes that you need to know. There's some rude people out there, rude shooters out there that surprisingly you will bump into them, and I have been bumping into them every once in a while for the whole time I've been shooting, which kind of sucks, but it's nice to have some proper etiquette and manner in weddings when you're shooting. And then, of course, what you should be shooting during getting ready, ceremony, reception, and things like that. So I'll put a link up there. If you finished watching all my video right here from beginning to the end, I thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. And please subscribe. I'm trying to build this page. It's taking a long time, but I'm not giving up. I love making these videos, and I love sharing my information with you guys for free, of course. And the money will eventually come. That's life, right? You do what you want to do because it makes you happy, and you work hard at it, and eventually you will make money for it. And if you will make good money for doing what you love. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time.